Darkness descends. A life unraveling. He had it all, a loving family, a successful career, a beautiful home. On the surface, his life was the epitome of success and happiness. Friends envied him, colleagues respected him, and his family adored him. But beneath this seemingly perfect exterior, a storm was brewing, one that would soon engulf his entire existence. But behind the facade, darkness brewed. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. A missed deadline here, a forgotten anniversary there. Small cracks began to appear in the foundation of his life, but he brushed them off, attributing them to the pressures of his demanding job. The pressures of work intensified, his marriage crumbled, and his once bright spirit dimmed. Arguments with his wife became more frequent, each one leaving deeper scars. At work, the stress was relentless, and he found himself drowning in a sea of responsibilities and expectations. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Time seemed to blur, each day indistinguishable from the last. The vibrant colors of his life faded into a monotonous gray, and he felt like a mere spectator watching his own life unravel before his eyes. He felt himself slipping, the joy of life replaced by a gnawing emptiness. The activities that once brought him joy now felt like burdens. He wandered through parks, aimlessly, searching for a sense of purpose that seemed to elude him. His work became an unbearable burden. The passion he once had for his career was replaced by a sense of dread. Each task felt insurmountable, and the weight of his responsibilities crushed him. Deadlines loomed, each one heavier than the last. The constant pressure to perform, to meet expectations, became a relentless force that drained him of his energy and willpower. He felt trapped, suffocated by the expectations he could no longer meet. The walls of his life closed in on him, and he felt like he was being buried alive under the weight of his own failures. The once sharp mind dulled, clouded by anxiety and despair. His thoughts, once clear and focused, became a tangled web of worries and fears. He struggled to find clarity, to make sense of the chaos that had become his life. Sleep offered no escape, only haunted by nightmares of failure and loss. The nights were long and restless, filled with dreams that mirrored his waking fears. He would wake up in a cold sweat, his heart racing, unable to shake the feeling of impending doom. The laughter of his children, once a source of boundless joy, now pierced his heart like shards of glass. Their innocent giggles, their playful antics, only served to remind him of the happiness he could no longer feel. He withdrew from them, unable to bear the weight of their innocence against the backdrop of his own crumbling world. He distanced himself, both physically and emotionally, from the very people who loved him the most. His wife, her love worn thin by his emotional absence, watched with a mixture of pity and resentment. She tried to reach out, to bridge the growing chasm between them, but her efforts were met with silence and indifference. The man he once was, the man everyone believed him to be, was gone. In his place stood a shadow of his former self, a hollow shell, devoid of the warmth and vitality that once defined him. In his place stood a stranger, hollow-eyed and lost, adrift in a sea of despair. He wandered through life, disconnected and disoriented, searching for a way out of the darkness that had consumed him. He had hit rock bottom, and the only way out seemed to be through surrender. The thought of giving up, of letting go, became a constant companion. He stood at the edge, looking into the abyss, wondering if there was any hope left for him. The abyss stares back, a broken man's nadir. The rain beat against the window pane, a relentless symphony of nature's tears. Each drop seemed to echo the sorrow that had taken root in his heart, a sorrow that had grown so vast it felt like it could drown him. The rain mirrored the turmoil within him, a storm that raged without end. It was as if the heavens themselves were weeping for his lost soul, for the man he used to be. He sat alone in the darkness, a half-empty bottle of whiskey his only companion. The room was a sanctuary of shadows, a place where he could hide from the world and from himself. Each sip burned a trail of regret down his throat, a bitter reminder of how far he had fallen. The whiskey was both a comfort and a curse, numbing the pain while deepening the despair. His reflection in the darkened window seemed to mock him. The man staring back was a stranger, a ghost of the person he once was. He could hardly recognize himself anymore. Where once there was confidence, now there was only fear. Fear of the future, fear of the past, fear of the present. It was a paralyzing force that kept him trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and despair. Where there was love, now there was only emptiness. The warmth that once filled his life had been replaced by a cold, unyielding void. He felt like a hollow shell, devoid of purpose and meaning. He had become a ghost, haunting the ruins of his own life. The streets he once walked with pride now felt like a labyrinth of despair, each corner a reminder of his failures. The phone rang, jarring him from his stupor. It was a sound that once brought joy. Now it was just another reminder of the life he was avoiding. He let it go to voicemail, unable to face the concern he knew he would hear in his wife's voice. Her love was a lifeline he felt unworthy of, a beacon in the darkness he couldn't reach. He was a burden to everyone, a constant source of disappointment. The weight of his failures pressed down on him, making it hard to breathe, hard to think, hard to live. The thought of facing another day filled him with dread. What was the point? Each morning was a struggle, each night a torment. The future seemed bleak, a never-ending tunnel with no light at the end. He had nothing left to give, no strength to keep fighting. The battles he once faced with courage now seemed insurmountable. He was tired, so very tired. The abyss stared back, and for the first time, he felt himself drawn to its cold embrace. It was a seductive call, promising an end to the pain, an end to the suffering. But even in his darkest moment, a small part of him clung to hope, a fragile thread that refused to break. A flicker in the darkness. An unexpected encounter. He stumbled through the park, his head hung low, oblivious to the world around him. The weight of the day's troubles bore down on his shoulders, making each step feel like a monumental effort. The park, usually a place of solace and peace, felt like a labyrinth of shadows and echoes tonight. The crisp autumn air did little to pierce the numbness that had settled over him. Fallen leaves crunched underfoot, their vibrant colors muted in the dim light. The trees, stripped of their summer glory, stood like silent sentinels, watching over his solitary journey. He was a man adrift, lost in a fog of despair. The world around him seemed distant, as if he were moving through a dream. He found himself drawn to a bench, its cold surface offering no comfort, but at least a place to rest. A flash of movement caught his eye. It was quick, almost imperceptible, but enough to break through his reverie. He blinked, trying to focus, wondering if his mind was playing tricks on him. A small brown dog, its tail wagging furiously, ran towards him. The dog's energy was infectious, a stark contrast to his own lethargy. It bounded over with an enthusiasm that seemed almost out of place in the quiet, somber park. He tried to wave it away, but the dog persisted, dropping a tattered tennis ball at his feet. The ball was worn, its once bright color faded from countless games of fetch. The dog looked up at him with expectant eyes, as if this moment was the most important thing in the world. He looked around for its owner, but the park was deserted. The usual sounds of laughter and conversation were absent, replaced by the rustling of leaves and the distant hum of the city. It was as if the world had paused, leaving just him and the dog in this quiet bubble. Hesitantly, he bent down and picked up the ball. It felt strange in his hand, a simple object that suddenly seemed to carry so much weight. The dog's eyes never left him, its tail a blur of motion. The dog's tail wagged even harder, its entire body vibrating with anticipation. It was a pure, unfiltered joy that he hadn't felt in a long time. The dog's excitement was contagious, a small spark in the darkness. He threw the ball, a weak toss that landed a few feet away. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The dog darted after it, its movements a blur of energy and enthusiasm. It returned moments later, the ball clutched proudly in its mouth. The dog didn't care. It bounded after the ball, returning moments later, tail wagging, ready for more. Each time it brought the ball back with the same unwavering excitement, as if this simple game was the greatest adventure. For the first time in months, a smile flickered across his lips. It was a small, tentative smile, but it was real. The dog's unrelenting joy had managed to break through the walls he had built around himself. It was a small thing, a moment of connection with a creature that asked for nothing in return. The dog didn't care about his past or his troubles, it just wanted to play, to share a moment of happiness. But in that moment, something shifted within him. The fog of despair that had clouded his mind began to lift, if only slightly. He realized that he wasn't as alone as he had thought. A tiny spark of hope, long dormant, began to flicker back to life. It was fragile, like a candle in the wind, but it was there. And as he continued to play with the dog, that spark grew a little brighter, illuminating the path ahead.